Well, here you have it. I got some work done over the weekend. Unfortunately, I was kind of feeling in the zone and didn't feel like picking up my camera, so I guess I'll call this the power tray. Power tray is, the mock-up is done. This is, I built this out of 16 gauge sheet metal. I think it was 16. Same sheet metal I used to build my transmission tunnel and the tub patches when I did the TJ6 stretch. But so I guess I'll go through and show how it goes together. But it basically collects all of my electrical components. What I want to do once it's done, or once I have the time, I want to remake it in aluminum and in one piece. I had to do it in two pieces just because I was sort of fitting things together as I was going. There's a lot of a lot of sculpting going on in this piece. But so what I decided to do is trap this behind my computer on the firewall. So in other words, use the same mounting method that the computer uses, except I decided to get rid of the sheet metal screws that the factory used to attach the computer. I got rid of those and I replaced them with M6 Allen head cap screws. The other screws were just tiny and there was only a tiny bit. I'll show a picture. I think I have a picture of them. There's like just a tiny bit of the screw that was actually grabbing the firewall. Only about that much of the screw. But so I guess I can do it takes a while to do, so I'm gonna do a time lapse of putting all the components on the tray, and putting the tray into the Jeep. So this is it, more or less fully assembled. I'm thinking about putting a relay here just to have it in case I need it in the future, but I'm not sure yet. If I don't, I'll probably trim this back and take some material out of here when I do the final version. But so you probably saw from the time lapse that I ran my wiring up the back face of the tray against the wall and then up through these holes here. So what's going to happen is those wires will come up to the top of the tray and I'll have this circuit block here. So all those wires, that's switches or circuits 5 through 16, I think, are going to be up here. There's 12 circuits up here. And then 1 through 4, I'm gonna mount right here. I haven't decided whether I'm gonna try and do some industrial double-sided tape. I have some 3M stuff that's pretty strong. I don't know if it's gonna stand for the heat though. Either that or build some sort of just small bracket that I can screw this down onto. That might actually be a better idea because I don't know if I want to damage this information here. But that's going to be 1 through 4, and then we got 5 through 16 up here. I relocated my isolator. If you saw from the earlier videos when I first started this project, I had the isolator mounted vertically in the center where the Switch-Pros is now. So all I did was rotate it, and stick it down underneath, and it fits perfectly just above and behind the battery tray. I just have enough clearance. So I guess I'll walk over to the Jeep with it now and temporarily screw it in just so you can see how it fits. All right, so I mentioned in the last clip that I was able to reuse the computer mounting points. I will say I'm not exactly a fan of how much movement there is in these flaps, but I'm wondering if maybe that's just, if that's supposed to be that way because they want to have a little bit of, you know, shock resistance, I guess, because the computer is mounted there. And they don't want it to be too rigid and bouncing around. But at any rate, the first couple test fits I did, I kind of just rammed these screws home, and I shouldn't have done that. I actually have a little bit of galling going on. I wound up having to replace these two nutserts. These two nutserts on the left are actually new. I had to drill out the old ones. Yeah, this screw is, I think this screw is shot. Can't get it to focus. Yeah, all the zinc is sort of worn off. But so at any rate, those are the mount points that I'm using. 1, 2, and 3. So this tray gets pinched between those two flaps and the actual computer, and I bolt the computer down on top of it. So I'll show that in a second. I need 2 hands to do that, so. Okay, so we have a tray going on first. You have to bear with me, this can get tricky. These mounting points are not easy to find, and especially when there's the computer in the way. Kind of takes some patience to fish the screws into place, which is why they're galled, because I didn't have enough patience last night. I think I just got that one. Yeah. 1 of 3. These 2 screws are actually the 2 problematic ones. Okay. 2 of 3. Hooray. Okay. I gotta be honest, out of all the test fits, this one went the smoothest. Okay. So, now that these wires are coming out of the back face of the plate, I'll have my circuit. I'm not using this one, I got a heavier duty one, a 30 amp circuit block, but that's going to be mounted right there. And so these are my Switch-Pro leads that tie into the, they're going to tie into the screws on the back. And then my accessory leads that run to my accessories will tie into the screws on the front. And I think what I'm going to do is drill a series of holes, 12 holes, similar to the ones on the back. I'm going to do that on the front so I can bundle all of my accessories into one harness and run that up along here so it's nice and clean. I can maybe use this screw here to you know, I can use that to hold a hoop, and then I can run the accessory harness up underneath here, and then each individual circuit will come up into its screw. So that's where I'm at right now. Everything fits really nice. The isolator, nice and snug down here. Switch-Pros, the comms cable. Actually, I may have to drill a hole somewhere. There's a nice big hole on the back side of this tray that I can probably use to run the comms cable through. So that's going to come out and then go back down. I may have to drill another hole in the tray to pass that through. I'll have to take a look at that. But and then my 35 amp circuits are going to be right here. So this is the harness outlet for that, the output for that. So I'm going to just clip those wires really short and just bring them right up into here. And the cool thing about all this is it's not very intrusive. It basically just uses existing mounting points, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. So the computer clips all just clip right back up under here like this. So originally this up here is just kind of dead space, so I was able to use that space for my circuits, and so I'm not taking up any more space. A problem with my Big 7 upgrade, I think I'm going to redo this part because these wires come way out away from the box here, and it makes it kind of a pain in the butt to get the battery in and out. You can see this wire is kind of chewed up a little bit and dirty. It's because my battery has these giant flanges on the bottom that I guess in some cars they have a sort of a clamp system that clamps on down at the bottom. But as you probably know, TJs don't have that. TJs have the tie down that they use at the top. I know I'm kind of all zoomed in here, but TJs use this system here, which clamps in at the top. So I have no use for that bottom flange, but I don't really want to hit it with an angle grinder. So I'll probably do something about this. Create some sort of L-shaped eyelet, because you can see how these just come straight out. I bent them, you know, as close as I could to the box, but that's about the best I can do. So that's probably, you know, next on the list. Once I get this all wired up, is I'm going to come back in here and redo these attachment points to give myself a little bit more room to get the battery in and out. But as it stands, this doesn't take away any more room. This is perfectly flush with the plugs for the computer. Man, I'll tell you what, some days things just fall right into place for you. I just killed two birds with one stone. So first, I was able to fix my issue with the wiring in the way of the battery, the wiring looping out that I discussed. I took a piece of 30 mil square tubing and basically just halved it diagonally and drilled 2 holes in it and bolted it down with some fresh nylocks in there. And so now, instead of the terminals coming out like this and looping around into my battery space, now they can come straight up like this. So I get to save all that space between here. And while I was in the process of doing that, it dawned on me. At one point I took the box out of the bracket here. There are 4 clips. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you pop those clips, you can actually lift the PDC box out of the bracket. And I had never done that. And once I did, I realized that there was a nice empty space underneath. And so if you watched my TJ JeepCables Big 7 kit install, this was a compromise. It looked nice. I spent a good amount of time doing it, but it was a compromise. The problem is that the inner fenders on TJs there's not a lot of flat surface. They're just kind of all over the place. And so I didn't have a clean sort of ergonomic place to mount the fuse coming off of the alternator, between the alternator and the battery. So when I pulled this PDC box out, I noticed that there's a perfect spot underneath for what? My fuse. Now, initially I put the fuse in here and I went to pop the box back down onto the bracket, and it didn't quite fit. So what I wound up doing was just shaving down the studs on the fuse. See the studs, the tops of the studs are shaved down. That, and I put the urethane part on my belt sander and just shaved maybe a 1/16 inch off the bottom. And then I just put some sheet metal screws in here and screwed it down to the bracket. And now it hides right underneath the PDC box, nice and tidy. And this clicks down. I'm not going to click it just yet because I want to tighten those terminals, but yeah, so that gets it off of the inner fender. And because I mean, the bracket came out nice and stuff, but it was just kind of sticking out in the middle of nowhere, and it kind of bugged me a little bit. So now I got this spatial situation resolved, and I also cleaned up my inner fender. So that's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. I'm pretty happy with this. So now I'm starting to rethink the location of where I planned on running my comms cable through the firewall. As it stands, I have this hole that I made previously right here. This wire right now is the hot for my light bar over the windshield, but I think I'm gonna move this wire down beneath the battery tray over here in the corner where the rest of the light wiring goes. And I'm gonna use a step bit and make that hole slightly bigger so I can run the comms cable through there. I'm looking at the instructions on page 10, and they actually show that you can remove the leads from the clip itself. So it makes it easier to pass it through. And without the clip, the cable itself is only going to need, spin this around, cable itself is only going to need about 8 millimeters of clearance, maybe a little bit more at the ends where the shrink tubing is. Let's see, 9.78. So I have a grommet somewhere. Did I lose it? Here it is. So I like to keep a jar full of random size grommets. Same as nuts and bolts and stuff. It's just handy to have when you're doing stuff like this. So the inside or the outside diameter of this grommet, that's going to be basically an 11 millimeter hole. So I'm going to have to step that hole up, which is probably 5 millimeters right now. I'll have to step that up to 11, so it's not a big deal. I can use my step bit. And so the inside diameter, I got 8.46, so that's going to be just right. That'll be nice and tight around the diameter of the cable, so it'll keep the weather out of the interior. That should be perfect. All right, so I got the hole done. That's the hole I need for the grommet. I had to get crafty because strategically this is not a great spot. Problem was the drill wouldn't fit in there because of the AC lines, so I had to get crafty. So I got my step bit into a 1/4 inch deep socket, into an extension, into a driver bit, into my drill. But that got it past the air conditioning line and perfectly perpendicular to the firewall. So now I can fit my grommet in. probably not going to do that on camera. I'm going to need 2 hands for that. All right, now that the grommet's in, I'm actually not so sure that it's going to be big enough. I think the edges of the hole might have compressed it, the inner diameter, slightly, but we'll see. See if I can sneak this through here. So I took the pin off. These are the terminals. Let's see if I can get these in. Maybe one at a time, 2 at a time. Oops, get in there. All right. Thinking if I can twist this as I put it through, I can get it. There we go. That's got it. That's actually a perfect fit. It was a little bit loose when I had it on the bench, but now that it's in the hole and the groove is compressed, it's perfect. Perfect fit. Except, you know what? I put it in the opposite direction. Now I get to fish those sharp little terminals back out again. Stupid mistakes. Ah! There we go. So I'm gonna have to fish this through from the inside out. These go to the clip that clips to the module, not to the actual button pad. But it is what it is. I show everything. All right, so I've repositioned. I'm inside the glove compartment now. That's the firewall with the grommet in it in the background. Maybe a little pointer would help. So I'm gonna reposition the camera on the engine, and so you guys can see the wire come through as I probably curse and sweat and fight with it, trying to get it through this tiny little space. Well, I must have been delusional when I thought that was going to work out. So what I did was just go back to my time-tested solution for running wires at this heavy gauge, basically home electrical wiring that I use as a guide wire. So I just shove it through the hole and then tape my harness to the other end of it and just pull it through. Hope for the best.
God damn it!
I ain't gonna get it. Well, well, well. What do you know? My guide wire failed me, and I just went back and took another shot at fishing it through with nothing but the cord shrink wrapped at the terminals, and I got it. Whew. All right, I'm done. It's like 95 degrees in here. I'm sweating like a dog. But before I quit, I want to just recap what's going on. So that's my comm wire coming through the firewall here. It's going to come down. I'll probably zip tie it to the ground that I have running up to the grill support. Probably zip tie it to that wire, and then it's going to come down underneath the isolator back behind the tray, and then come back up and into the comm port here. I have it just sitting on the side here for now. I'm not going to put the clip back on just yet. I want to make sure that because this was, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but man, was it a pain in the butt to get those wires to let go. So I don't want to put this back on yet, just in case I have to pull this out again and reroute for whatever reason. But yeah, so I'll stop here for now. Doing a good job?